He also talks about, now this one may be a stretch, but he talks about behind the home of the town's richest doctor in the distance to the west is the buildings and steeples and what have you at a small denominational college. Well, 1 mile west of Allenhurst is the site of Robinson High School. So he kind of put the college there. This is at Miram, Indiana, which is clearly visible from Robinson. It was known as the Union Christian College, and it was in operation from 1859 to 1924. It's still there, and it's now known as the Miram Conference Center. From the east side of Robinson, you can see that white steeple on that building quite clearly. It was a denominational college. It's kind of in the neighborhood. Yeah, maybe it fits. My speculation. He also talks about the being able to see on that first page the towers of what he calls the Sternutol chemical factory or chemical plant, and it is to the east. In Marshall, on the north side of Marshall, there used to be the Velsicol chemical plant, the black and white photo at the top that I got from the Clark County Historical Society. And I might add that when Jones wrote this book, he lived only maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles from this place, or a lot of the novel. The colony is just almost straight south of it and a little bit west. Robinson, of course, has a Marathon oil refinery. The oil refinery is on the southeast corner of town. In the novel, he describes the factory, the plant, as being on the northeast corner. So he just moved it north in the geography of the novel. There's another business another industry that's referred to quite frequently in the novel, and it's a brassiere factory. That's where Jenny Moorhead worked. Robinson didn't have a brassiere factory, but we did have a shoe factory back then. I might point out there are a few differences. There are a lot of differences between the novel and the movie, and there are some real, I think, critical things that aren't in the movie that help the novel tremendously. There are references to what's called the bypass, and a little later I'll show you the Route 40 bypass on the north side of Marshall, which was under construction when Jones wrote the book. The taxi business in the novel is a big part of it. Frank, the main character's brother, is trying to get Dave involved in this taxi business, and they do start a taxi business. That is not in the movie anywhere. And we never get to meet their father in the movie, Old Man Hirschschmidt. We find out in the novel that somewhere along the line, Frank changed the last name to Hirsch from Hirschschmidt because of his father's reputation as a drinker and kind of a town bum. And Frank is very, very ambitious with his business endeavors, trying to overcome that. That's a big part, I think, of that character, Frank Hirsch. Anyway, back to the geography of this thing. Jones also makes a reference, by the way, to another factory in the book, and he calls it the Kentucky Oil Company. In the time that he wrote this book, it was not the Marathon Oil Company, it was the Ohio Oil Company. You'll find this throughout the novel where he plays with words. He'll do something like use the name of a different state, the name of a different country, and it gets pretty interesting. Now, back to the bus ride into town. Here's the other curve, just like he describes. It goes down a dip, across the creek, through a wooded area. He talks about the road becoming brick after crossing the bridge. When I was a kid, right there where that vehicle is on that road, it was a brick street. There's also, this is in like I think the next paragraph after that one. I'm not going to go through this book paragraph by paragraph, okay. But there are so many things right in those first few pages that just absolutely nail it down, I think, on where we are, or what we're using as our model. He talks about he knew when he could first see it, it would be visible off across the flat sand landscape, or the flat sand prairies of the landscape. He talks about the rise that the bus would top, the Wabash River bottoms, 5 miles to the east. Well, I got a Google map here. That blue dot right up there is the approximate location of what we call Mount Ephraim. It's one of the highest points in Crawford County. This is Trimble. Here is Route 1A coming into Robinson. There's the refinery. I guarantee you that you can go right over there right now and you can see the refinery. Also in this map, some other things just to give you some future references. This is Palestine, Illinois. I'm trying to find, right up here is Hudsonville. And right here is Miram, where that Institute building is, right there. He talks about the courthouse and being able to see it off sticking up there from that hill that he tops. That's the courthouse, kind of how it looked back about that time. That's what it looks like down below today. The bus pulls into town. Dave Hirsch gets off the bus, and he looks across the square, and he sees his brother Frank's jewelry store on the east side of the square. And the bus driver carries magazines and newspapers into the bus station, which is also the news agency. This is taken from about where the bus station actually was in Robinson. It was a little bit further east, maybe 1 or 2 storefronts at that time. It was a bus station. It was a news agency. So he's looking over into this neighborhood over here, and you will find out this is the Second National Bank, and you're going to learn more about it later. He talks about the jewelry store. How many of you have seen the movie? Okay, you saw this jewelry store in the movie, and you almost saw it exactly like it really is. That is such an, I almost felt like I was in this jewelry store when I see this movie. It's now called Weber's. It was called Brown's at the time the novel was set. By the way, the novel, I believe in the book, it says it's set in 1947, and it was Brown's Jewelry at that time. It's exactly as described on the inside. The only thing is it's not on the east side of the square. It's actually on the west side of the square. Okay? There's a reference to another jewelry store. There's a scene, it's in the movie also, where the people are there looking at the wedding silver. And Frank in the book makes the comment to the customer that, you know, if it's towel you're interested in, old Simon Klatfelder across the square carries that, Mrs. Stevens.